morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Brown, and this is a Saturday morning breakfast, the program of First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton. This broadcast is being recorded for later showing on their YouTube channel. Today's guests are three women who started a company called the BOTANY, located at Nan's Restaurant down the street from our church. But before we get to their presentation, we have a question of the day. And appropriately enough, it is, what is your favorite houseplant? And you may not have one, but let's give it a try. I'll start actually with myself and my wife. Our favorite is the peace plant that we've had for several years and have been able to keep it alive.
Yay!
So, yeah. So let's start with Wanda. Do you have a favorite houseplant?
Well, right now it's my hibiscus, which is about 25 years old, and it normally summered on the deck, but since I've moved to an apartment, it's sitting in front of the sliders, and it's blooming like crazy.
Oh, okay. That's good. Sharon?
I have to say my bonsai.
Wow.
So we have about 5 different, we have a ficus, which we've had for, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
So do you,
is still going strong.
do you have to prune that all the time?
Not all the time, but once a year you prune it. And then you have to
Okay.
repot it and do that type of stuff.
Oh, okay.
That's
D
it.
Glorioso?
Am I unmuted? Yeah. Oh, hi.
Hi.
I guess my hibiscus, which is dying, and that's why I'm on here today.
Oh, okay. I'll see. Paul?
I have a pineapple. It's about 1 meter across now.
Oh.
Started from the top. And I just put it in water, and it's
Boy, that bird was waiting for me.
really taken off.
Yeah, nice.
He was calling me while
Craig?
I have a house full of coleus that I don't have to worry about it blooming, but it keeps a lot of color in the house.
Oh, okay, that's great. Sue Stewart?
Yeah, whatever survives my neglect. Right now the jade plant is winning.
Okay, that's good. Quincy?
We were just joking that probably it's our snake plants because we have so many, they're kind of taking over the house. The original snake plant I got when I was about 8 years old, so it's probably about 50 years old, the original one, so yeah, I'm attached.
Bill Froberg, do you have one?
I think the one that comes to mind is I have a cactus, and I don't even really know what kind it is. And I've had it for years. And for so many years, it didn't do anything. It could have been dead, but I could tell it was still alive. And then all of a sudden, it just exploded. And now I have to figure out how to transplant it. And I have no idea how to do that.
62394, are you there?
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. It's Linda Campo.
Oh, okay.
I have 0 houseplants at the moment because my cats decide they want to eat them now and again. So all my plants are outside, and I guess I'd have to say my bonsai wisteria is my favorite at the moment.
Okay.
It's going to bloom pretty soon.
Great. So Rick, do you have one other than what Sharon said? I know you're in mid-bite. Oh, you're not muted. You're muted.
No, I'd have to say the bonsai. Some of the bonsai are 25 years old, 26 years old, since we're comparing.
Yeah. Okay. So now today's program could only be done by Zoom because we have 3 guests. One's in South Carolina, one's in New York, and one's in Stowe, Massachusetts. So if you have a question, put it in the chat, and either I'll ask it or I'll call on you to ask it. So now I'm going to see if I can make our three guests, spotlight. This is a technique I learned from Bill Froberg. Thank you, Bill. And Kara. So here are Elizabeth, Kathy, and Kara, and they are the owners of the Botanary. And here is their presentation.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us this morning. My name is Elizabeth Matthew, and I am one of the owners alongside my sister Kara and my mother Kathy of the Botanary, which is a plant shop idea founded really by Kara amid this pandemic and all of the changes happening as we were sitting separately in our houses in various spots in the country. And, you know, just enjoying the process of trying to keep our houseplants alive. My mother is a certified horticulturist. My sister is an artist and a designer, and I have a business background. And my sister has inherited my mother's green thumb. I have not quite as much, but you know, amidst all this, Kara kind of convinced us, why don't we try this? This is something that there isn't a lot of in kind of the suburban neighborhoods around you guys. So we have, and we're starting an indoor, it's really focused on indoor plants, a lot of tropicals, and it's kind of born with this idea of not everybody has a green thumb. I can attest to that. It's not always easy to go into a nursery and know what you're looking for, especially in a New England house when it's cold and it can be very dark. So what do you do when you're not totally comfortable? So we have this idea of being more of a plant shop community where you can feel comfortable going in, asking questions, you know, telling us a little bit about your house, about what's going on, about what your issues are, and hopefully we can help you go along in this journey of finding the right plants for your home and for your interest and for your experience level. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about that. And hopefully some of our big dreams for what the company is. So I will pass it along to my mother, Kathy, now.
Good morning. My name is Kathy D'Angelo, and I would like to thank you all for coming and giving us the chance to share our excitement about this idea. The girls have allocated me to be the chief horticulturist in the group. And one time when someone was trying to negotiate with my 7-year-old granddaughter as to her role in the business, I became the director of human resources. So I'd like to explain a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Niagara Falls. And when I go back and think about my first memories of plants, I remember this beautiful elm tree growing in my grandmother's front yard. And then the next thing I remember is this pink peony bush, which was in the back garden. And, you know, it would bloom once a year with these beautiful pink peony plants. And then the little ants that would come out of those plants and scare me because I was probably 4 at the time. I didn't really show that much interest in gardening. My parents and grandparents, they had vegetable gardens. But nobody really spent that much time thinking about plants for beautification purposes or for growing beautiful herbs or flowers, or beautiful flowers and flowering shrubs. Basil was probably the herb they grew. But then I was lucky enough to move with my family to England, and that was a whole different space for me. Everybody down to the smallest home had a beautiful garden filled with a variety of shrubs and plants, and there were flower shows going on all the time, and we even lived down the street from this geranium specialist. So I got a whole new viewpoint of what gardening could be. And their countryside was so beautiful. So unfortunately, we didn't stay there that long, but I have lived in 4 different hardiness zones across the country. And the longest place that I've lived is in Florida. I have a BS Bachelor of Science from the University of Florida, which I got in 2003. And mainly I worked for cities. My expertise was trees. And then I retired, and I still love trees, and I'm a certified arborist. But being in retirement, what you wind up being is on all these different boards of the condominium or the place where you live. So it's kind of been in the background. I haven't really spent that much time at my love, which is horticulture. So last year I bought a house in Bolton to be closer to my daughter and my grandchildren. And the next thing I knew, I'm involved in this business. I'm now a business owner, which is pretty exciting. I thought I would start by trying to explain what exactly is a house plant. Well, a house plant is a shrub or a vining plant, a herbaceous perennial, a small tree, a succulent that could manage to live in interior spaces, either in a home or in a building. I actually went online and looked at what would be definitions of houseplants. Houseplants are ornaments for rooms. They're a plant grown or kept indoors. It's an ornamental plant that is grown indoors and adapts well to an indoor culture. And then per Wikipedia, it's a plant that is grown indoors in places such as residences or offices, namely for decorative purposes, but studies have shown them to have positive psychological effects. Okay. Going back into a little bit of the history of houseplants, the cultures of China, India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, they used houseplants outdoors, or they used plants outdoors. And these plants had specific uses. They were medicinal, culinary, or for their oils or fruits. They were aromatic, cosmetic, and even for dyeing their fabrics. And then the Greeks and the Romans were the first to use houseplants indoors. And the Romans were the first culture, seemed to be the first culture to really appreciate houseplants for their beauty alone. Okay. So we're the D'Angelos, and I think of ourselves as modern day Romans. Okay. In 1652, Sir Hugh Platt, who was an English agricultural agent, wrote a book where he introduced the ideas of greenhouses for the upper class lords and manor owners. Now you can imagine in those days there were lots of exploring going around, and these plant explorers were going to different countries and they were bringing these plants back to England, and they wanted to have a spot to study them and everything. So basically the only people who could afford these greenhouses and conservatories were the upper class lords and the manor owners. They were the ones that could afford to build the buildings, to buy the plants, and to hire the staff that would be able to keep them alive. Okay. By the 1800s, houseplants were a little more popular inside homes. But again, these would have to be plants that were pretty hardy because the conditions in the houses were drafty. There wasn't much light. It was pretty humid. And there was a lot of smoke in the rooms filled due to the wood fires that people would use, wood fires or coal fires, to heat their homes. A lot of these species you would recognize today. There was a cast iron plant, the bird's nest fern, English ivy, a parlor palm. These were all plants that would survive in the 1800s homes. Okay. After World War II, the popularity of houseplants grew again. A lot of people had the experience of planting victory gardens, and so they enjoyed growing plants and growing their vegetable gardens and working outdoors. There was more home ownership. There was more disposable income. There probably had been over the years a lot more research on plants and a lot more maybe even marketing of plants. And so houseplants became popular then. And then through the decades since World War II, houseplant popularity ebbed and waned. But we are currently in a cycle where there is tremendous interest in houseplants, probably fueled, and I know for a fact it's fueled by millennials who left their homes and went to the cities, and a lot of them were renting small apartments and spending a lot of time indoors, so they needed a connection to nature. And so I've been actually reading about this phenomenon for about the past 6 or 7 years. A lot of these kids are so savvy. They have wall gardens and, you know, all sorts of amazing things, but they, you know, go to Instagram and they have boards on Pinterest, and they're constantly researching different plant species and cultivars and varieties. And so they're definitely fueling this now. Okay. And then the pandemic came, and that made it even more popular. We would be using these Zoom screens like we are now, seeing people on TV, and all of their screens would have beautiful plants in the background. And I think we all had this desire to just connect with nature. We couldn't connect with people, so we connected with our plants. And in the last year, plants of all types, indoor, outdoor plants, they've just been resurging. I do a lot of research with greenhouse management articles, and it's really been a challenge to even keep these plants in stock. Let's talk a little bit now about the benefits of plants. Why would people want to have plants? Well, one of the studies that they did in 1989, it was a NASA study, and it was researching ways to improve the air quality in space, in their space stations. And so what they concluded was that certain plants were highly effective at removing things like formaldehyde, benzene, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen oxide from the air. Now, my girls like to remind me that this was a very controversial study because you needed a lot of plants to duplicate those conditions. And I'm not sure if a lot of further studies did duplicate that, but a lot of people who sell plants use this in their marketing. And I do believe, because just the mere fact of plants using the carbon dioxide that we exhale from our breath to manufacture their food in the process of photosynthesis allows oxygen to come into our rooms and our spaces. So I do believe that there are benefits for having houseplants in your home. Another reason would be the increased happiness and well-being that plants bring to you. When you look at them, you see their beauty. And there's a whole area of horticulture that studies this. It's one of the reasons why hospitals have chosen to plant gardens in their exterior spaces. A lot of times they'll actually put a patient who just had surgery or is going through some kind of treatment next to a window with plants, because there have been proven benefits that plants help people to heal a little bit faster. And then the final benefit, I would say, would be just that it adds simple beauty into your space. As you all mentioned, you have favorite houseplants, and there's a reason for that. Maybe you like the way that the color is in your room, or you like the interest of the leaves, or you like just the interaction with it, having to repot it every few years, or prune it, or move it to your porch and enjoy it out there. So I think it's pretty important to recognize that there are a lot of benefits for plants. Okay, now you might want to wonder where do your house plants for sale actually come from? Well, I live in the state of Florida, like I said, and I know that about 75 to 80% of the house plants that are sold in the United States come from the state of Florida. And I've actually highlighted a couple of circles on this map. The one on the south of the state is the Miami-Dade area. There's a lot of growers up there. And then the Apopka area, which is in the central part of the state. Another place where people get houseplants in the Northeast, the shops and stuff, it comes from Ontario, Canada. There's a large space adjacent to Lake Ontario, which produces and has a lot of vendors that supply plants to the Northeast of the United States. Of course, they also come from other places like Texas and the Southeast, in California, even Hawaii. And I've learned actually also from Europe, because the plants that grow in Ontario, oftentimes they initiate in Germany and England. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they do so well up here, because they're more used to the growing conditions that you guys have in your northern homes. Okay. So during the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty, both in the growers and also in the people who were selling plants. The country shut down. The growers and the nursery owners were uncertain about what to expect, and a lot of them shut down too because of the COVID problem. And then if there was anything to transport, there was a big problem with transporting these, because each state had different requirements and for getting the trucks into your areas. And so it really became just a lot of uncertainty for the industry. But in actuality, what happened is that plant ownership became more popular than ever. If you know anybody that was in the nursery business last year, everybody will say it was their best year ever. But it meant that there were a lot of sort of like plants that were no longer available. Nursery owners sold out of things. And then this year, COVID actually shut down some production. We had a experience with the Canadian growers where one of their nurseries, or one of their growing facilities, the whole plant got COVID and they had to shut down their operations for a whole month. So due to this delayed production, there's been a lot of shortages, and the transportation costs became higher due to these COVID restrictions. Okay. And then I also wanted to explain a little bit about production challenges from the grower's perspective. You know, I told you that the millennials are always on the lookout for new plants, different cultivars. And so a lot of times it's hard to get those, you know, in a large quantity. The growers need time to respond to these industry trends, and most of them are more comfortable growing the same reliable plants rather than experimenting with these new plant whims, which maybe by the time they're ready for sale, people don't even want them anymore. So they take contracts from the large sellers, but then it takes about 18 months to 2 years to produce the house plant that you see for sale in your local store. Okay, so I'm ready to stop talking now and pass the baton over to my daughter, Kara.
Hi, I'm Kara. I am the design aspect, I guess, of this endeavor. I do live in New York. I've been in the textile industry for the past 17 years or so. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. You know, during the pandemic, as my mom had said, gardening and houseplants have all exploded, and it was the same for us. I think Elizabeth lost her job during the pandemic. Working in corporate America in New York City, I had to lay people off, and I just it was just such a stressful time, and I just had sort of started thinking about things that could catapult me in a different direction and changing my situation. And plants for me, I guess, was just, my husband has always been really into them, so it was something that we started to really kind of get into a little more. And this was something that Elizabeth and I would talk about all the time last year. And it was something that we could bring our mom into, which was a really great opportunity for us. You know, we felt that there could be an opportunity in the marketplace to tap into all of these desires that we were feeling, you know, being stuck in our houses for the last 15 months. And some of our houses are much smaller than others, but, you know, it reduces stress, it increases our motivation. It can, you know, add greenery to your space, especially when you're just kind of stuck. So it was just something that I think that it was a common ground for all of us, and it was something that we could sort of gather, you know, and talk about, which was really nice. Elizabeth isn't as comfortable in the plant knowledge as we are, my mom especially. I'm, you know, somewhat knowledgeable. So when we started talking about doing something, we really wanted to make sure, we thought it was really important for us to help bring in the people who are not as comfortable in plant knowledge. So we do really want to focus on helping people learn about plants and having them make more confident decisions in their selections for their home. You know, you can identify your home situation, and we want to give you plant selections for that. If you have pets, it's really important for us. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. If you were to ask me if it was plants or pets, I would 100% go with pets all the time. So, you know, we want to make sure that what we're providing you is going to work in your situation, and how much time you have for plant care. So it's something that we can sort of provide for you. They become a healthy addiction when you buy one and you see a unique leaf pattern or a different color, and then you want to buy another one. I do this all the time. You know, plant can have many different cultivars, and as you start becoming more knowledgeable and successful with the first ones, you can find the next cultivar to bring into your collection. So it can become this healthy addiction, and I think it's been just a nice thing for everyone, you know, especially this past year. You know, and when we're going to nurseries, it's just like a very exciting day. You go and you see all of this stuff, and we can never bring home enough. You know, it's so Elizabeth and I have been going to all of the different places around. You know, our thing is too, we would really like to work with local growers, local nurseries around to bring in the plants. And it's just like a great Monday morning to go and see all of these new plants that are coming in and what we can bring and bring to you. So, okay. So in thinking about, you know, starting this, where do people get a lot of their plants? You know, local garden centers and nurseries. There's a lot of online sellers now, such as The Sill, where you can get a pot and a plant together. They're selected, you know, pot and plants together that are delivered to your front door. You can get them on Etsy, you can get them on Amazon. There's a lot, Bloomscape is another one online that you can get them. Lowe's, Home Depot, the grocery store. I go into Lowe's, you know, the first sign of spring, and you go into Lowe's and there's just that mass amounts of plants in there. You know, that's where a lot of people are getting them. These big stores have kind of jumped on this as well this year because the sales have increased so much during the pandemic. Okay. It's really cost effective for them because they're such a large organization, and they're buying for all of their locations, so they can buy these plants in bulk, and they're getting, you know, a volume discount on these mass-produced plants, where, you know, someone like us wouldn't really be bringing this many plants in, and a lot of the times we're competing with the same nurseries that they're getting their plants from as well. Okay. You know, they're carrying a lot of just really common varieties. The fiddly fig has just kind of blown up, it seems like, in the past year. Birds of paradise, palms, monsteras, anthuriums, they always have a selection of succulents there. But when you're going to these stores, plants are not really their main market. So they're really only having a certain amount of time to put into care for these plants. So you kind of go and, you know, they may not look the best that they could be looking. And a lot of the time, the individual needs of each plant can be overlooked. So the day that these plants arrive in those stores will probably be the best condition that they'll ever be in. You know, they're not always labeled. They're overwatered. The light conditions may not be very ideal for the indoor house plants. So when you're looking through that kind of stuff, these plants are going to be more stressed. They are more susceptible to foliage or root damage, root rot from overwatering, maybe not enough water, drying leaves, or damaged leaves, pests. There's a higher potential to infect. If you do have current house plants at home, you know, making sure that you inspect the soil to ensure there's no insects in there, or the leaves as well. So it's always a good idea to get yourself into the habit of isolating your plants for 1 to 2 weeks when you're bringing them home, even from a store like us. It could be a good idea to isolate your plants, but to ensure you can, just to make sure that things don't get infected in your own home, you can go through. But you can see here, these are just some images we've gotten from going to these stores. Okay. And they always have a lot of succulents, and sometimes they're really beautiful, but sometimes, you know, at the end of, they may not get rid of them, and so they kind of keep them on the shelves and they really don't look so great. Okay. So we, you know, are coming into this. This is our space at Nan's Market. We have a curated selection of plant and pots that we are keeping there for purchase. We have, you know, we're bringing in a few different accessories right now. We have some good dirt that is a peat moss based soil. That is, the ingredients are sustainably grown and sourced. We're also Joyful Dirt fertilizer, which is both kid and pet friendly. You know, we really want to work with smaller companies that are really sort of forward thinking on both pet safety and you know, organically sourced sort of materials. So these two companies were kind of a good fit for us. You know, we're constantly on the lookout for different kind of varieties, of plants, different cultivars. Liz, you can just kind of forward through these. You know, it's not always easy for us to find different cultivars just because the stock can go really fast. So if we don't get there early enough on a Monday morning, you can miss out. And there's not a huge variety all of the time, you know, so yeah, so that is one of our main, we would really like to bring in some unique varieties for people to have different kind of houseplants in your home. It's going to cost slightly more than it's going to be at one of those other, you know, Lowe's or Home Depot or the grocery store, just because we aren't bringing in bulk like they are, and we're not buying at the same price point. But, you know, we are trying to provide, you can stop, the best care while these plants are in our care. So, and we're trying to put them in the best possible growing conditions. Elizabeth is in our tiny little warehouse right now. We have shelves, we have grow lights, and we, you know, they may be in our care for a few weeks. They could be in our care for a few months. They might be in our care for a couple days, but we're putting in, you know, all of that extra time for any extended care that's needed for these plants. It's in our best interest to try and provide each plant with the correct care, and hopefully it'll thrive for whomever brings it home. You know, for example, Stowe isn't known for its water. So we've been filtering all of the water in our little buckets of water jugs, so we can filter out any of the chemicals and the water softening that happens in a lot of the homes up there, because that's not good for the plants. And so we don't want to stress the plants in that way. We are rehabbing plants when it's needed. We are pruning off dead leaves, repotting them if necessary when they're growing out of their pots. So, we are putting a lot of care into these plants, and it's something that's really important to us. And we're learning as we go too, what's needed, and it's, bringing in new plants and understanding the care for all of the new plants that we get. For us, it's also really important for us for community connection. We're on Instagram. That's something that when we decided to talk about what we wanted to do, how we wanted to come into the community, it was really important to us to be able to be part of the community. So, we on Instagram right now, that's what we're trying to do. Our website will be finished very shortly. We do like Plant Feature Fridays. This was a cactus that I had purchased for one of our photo shoots. And I think if you were to ask me what my favorite plant was, it would be a cactus. I hope one day to move to New Mexico and just live out my days with dogs and cactuses. So this is a Peruvian cactus that I found, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And you can see there in some of those images that a little flower was starting to grow. It loved Nan's in the south-facing window there. So we had it there for quite a while. And, in our Instagram too, we're trying to put in, information on plants, so people are interested. We're, growing needs, interesting facts. A Peruvian cactus actually has edible fruit that grows. First it grows these flowers, and if it's in the right growing condition, most likely in New Mexico, it's going to grow a big pink edible apple. That's what they're called, Peruvian apple cactuses. So so that's the first sort of step, growing the flowers. You can go to the next one. So we did finally sell this cactus, thank God, to this woman who had the flowers were bigger, and it only blooms one night a year. So she was able to enjoy the bloom, because if we had had it at Nan's, nobody would have seen this. And she posted it on Instagram, and we got to see it. So, having that community connection is really important, and being able to engage with our customers in this way is fun for us. And this is kind of what we want to do. And it was great that we got to see this, and it was great that she got to experience this. And we just really hope that the plant is healthy and beautiful for the time to come for her. So, it is important for us to be connected to our community. We care about your story. We want to be part of your story. And we want to be able to answer your questions if you have them. We want to be able to help you fill your home with beautiful things, things that you love, and we want to help you take care of them. So we know these are investments for you, and we just want to be able to provide the best possible information and care for you, so you can enjoy these for years to come. And that's it for me. So thank you. Oh, this is another woman who bought the Ficus Ali, and she tagged us in her Instagram post as well. So, and these kinds of things are really fun for us to see, that, when you bring them home and how these things go. So if you purchase plants from us, let us know how they are.
So, we're happy to take questions from people. Just so we do have products at Nan's Market. At Nan's, because of just sort of the selling arrangement, we have plants paired with pots, which is a little bit tricky, I know. We will have a website probably within the next week that's up and running, which will allow people to buy more simply just a plant, just a pot, just accessories that we can then deliver to you, to Nan's. So that's where we're headed. Eventually, we would love to have a retail space. of our own. That's the goal that we're working towards, and potentially doing some service stuff where we actually can come into your home and give you a diagnosis, so to speak, of the areas in your house that we think will work and the plants in those areas that we think will work. So thank you for having us today. We really appreciate it. And please let us know if you have questions. We're happy to answer any that you have.
So, yeah, that was great. Thank you. Do you want to stop sharing and then we'll get some questions up there? Okay, I'm going to unspotlight you too. So I have, well, Linda, my wife Linda has a question. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, the difficult thing if you don't have a green thumb is to know when to water a plant, and also to not water it too much. And when you can't read plants, that's tough.
They have this amazing tool. It's a water meter. You can actually pick that up at Home Depot or Lowe's.
A water meter. Oh, great.
Yeah, and it's it actually, you can put it into the dirt and it gives you a reading if it's dry or if it's not dry, or like where it is. Obviously in the summer months, spring, summer, when it's the growing season, you definitely want to be watering plants more than in the winter when they're dormant and you don't want to water as much. But we really find that the water meter, Elizabeth is holding it up right now, is really helpful. You know,
about $7. They're not expensive. And, you know, this has been a really amazing tool for me because I have killed many a plant through overwatering. And this was very interesting to see, especially in the winter. I mean, there are plants that you're not watering for 3 weeks because they're really just not taking water in the winter. So, you know,
and they're not getting as much sun.
They're not growing.
Right.
They're not growing. They're in the dormant stage.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's been big, and it's been interesting to realize that, you know, even plants that, even right now, because I have a dark house that doesn't get a lot of light, and I've been surprised that, like, my monstera, for example, I think it's been 2 weeks, still doesn't get better. So it, you know, it's been interesting as I've been using this water meter to realize it's a lot longer than you think, because I was just going in and watering like it's Sunday, I water it now, and that was not the right thing to do.
Right. Well, thank you.
And that's really your kiss of death for the plant, mostly, is overwatering.
Yeah.
Another big question for me is, when do you repot? Because I know my daughter actually told us that amaryllis, you know, a bulb, likes to have a tight fit in the pot. So how do you know when to repot?
My amaryllis, we didn't repot it for 5 years, and we just repotted it a couple weeks ago. And it actually grew a second bulb in it.
Oh my God.
So it has been fine. It's bloomed once a year for the past 5 years, but it was really, really tight in that pot. So we also just repotted a Dracaena that we hadn't repotted in 5 years, or 7 years actually, since we moved here. And those roots were insane, but it still did okay. But I think you can tell when the roots come out the bottom a lot of the times.
Yeah.
If they're root bound.
Well, and certain species like to be root bound. That's what we've been finding in our research. There's some plants that really like it to be tight. And then there's other plants that like to spread their roots. So it's kind of like, you know, just a little bit of research to find out what your plant likes. But as Kara said, if you know, the biggest clue of all is when you see those roots growing out of the bottom of the pot, you know, move it up a size.
Okay. Bill, you got a question?
Yeah. First of all, I just have to say that I wish you guys the best. As a resident in Stowe, it's just such a asset to have a diverse set of businesses, and so certainly hope that that you guys are around for a long time.
Oh, thank you.
One question I have is, it's from a business standpoint, I'm curious about how you decided on Stowe. And it's just interesting to have a business that's owned by 3 individuals who are spread about the country, so to speak. And
That's our biggest challenge.
what the decision process must have been, hey, we want this business, but we live in different places where that doesn't matter. We're going to overcome that, and we're going to geographically locate in a particular spot, and it's going to be Stowe. I mean, how did that come about?
The goal really is, so I have lived here for the last 5 years with my family. And then, you know, I grew up in Florida, moved up here after college, met my husband up here who is a New Englander, so we're never leaving because he is a New Englander. So, you know, once we were sort of settled here, my mother, as she is still in Florida part-time, but now, you know, I have 2 kids and she wanted to be, my sister lives in New York. She wanted to be up here more. So she, a couple of years ago, bought a condo in Bolton that she's in part of the year. And, you know, as my sister has spent more time up here, she has sort of indicated, you know, I really like it up there. I'd like to be closer to you guys. So I think the conversation, and especially during the pandemic when we really couldn't see each other, I think that desire got stronger. So the decision to do so was more, I guess, logistically, we all kind of had this idea that this is kind of where we're all getting the goal of wanting to be here. So in our perfect world, this thing does really well. It allows us to, you know, have everyone in the family live up here. And then when I think about Stowe, you know, I really enjoyed living in the community. My children are, you know, both now very much involved with the community and love it here. And I see an opportunity. I love the idea of being part of the diversification of the town and, you know, making it a little more interesting and being a part of helping the community to grow. That's something that I just like the idea of and think that we have a story to tell and a point of view and a way to get involved. And, you know, for us, a lot of this is rooted in the idea of like wanting to be a part of something and wanting to help people and wanting to grow something that can grow with a community. And so, you know, for me, it's a nice way to try to give back to Stowe. I think there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to come in and you know, Rihanna has been very kind at NANS to sort of give us a chance as they've come into the community and really been embraced by it. It was really great for them to say, yeah, take some space up. Why not? Like, let's see if we can make this work. So that was kind of how this all came about.
I've noticed your photography is really fantastic. I know some of your shots were attributed to
Joy.
else, but do you have a professional photographer or do you do a lot yourselves?
Oh no, we use Joy. Joy's photos are absolutely beautiful, but no, we don't have a professional photographer. We and that's really nice of you to say, because Elizabeth and I would not say that about our photography. We're always really critical of things, but I find photography.
Sarah's husband is a very good photographer. He's very artistic, and he's been helping us. The iPhone's ability to just take a good photo has also been helping us.
Yeah.
I have 2 very talented girls who don't like to take a lot of credit for the awesome things they do, but they do. They
Good.
do awesome things.
Yeah, great. Sharon, you had a question?
Personal question. I apologize if you want to do it, but I do know that was talking about amaryllises and when to pot them and stuff like that, and I've been successful in having them continuously rebloom for a number of years, except for this one. Leaves look great, but no bloom. I've repotted it, I've fertilized it, but no bloom. Do they just run out of gas?
Mom, do you know that?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I would think that bulbs would continue to bloom every year. How long have you had this one?
5 years.
And it keeps coming back. The leaves,
Yeah.
the leaves keep coming back, and you're fertilizing it every year.
Well,
I wonder
I
if
think
it's
every year. It's been a little erratic.
I think, yeah, mine too, though. I've had mine for 5 years too. And I do feel like, because they're supposed to bloom in the winter. Ours does not bloom in the winter anymore. It blooms probably spring or whatever. So actually, now that we just repotted it, I'm kind of wondering what it'll do. But I've had it where it didn't bloom, and I think you just have to wait patiently, and I think it will.
Yeah, I think so. As long as you have green leaves, I think it'll rebloom.
They seem to be really hardy. So this experiment with me repotting, and we actually cut a lot of the roots because it was really, really root bound. I'll see how these two do. But
How did you did you cut the bulb in half so you came out with 2 bulbs?
No,
Well,
not the same.
Yeah, it came out with 2 bulbs. I just cut the roots in half. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting. We've traditionally bought amaryllises for Christmas time, but I've never realized they rebloom, so they end up behind.
Yeah, it's a bulb.
Like, you're supposed to put them through a dry period in the summer, and then because that's how they are in their natural environment, they're in a drought conditions through the summer, and then you should start watering them in the fall, and then it's supposed to bloom for the winter, Christmas time. But for us, it kind of like never happens that way. But yeah. Okay.
So Craig had a question about the warehouse behind Elizabeth. I think that's what you did say, right, Elizabeth? You're in the warehouse?
Yes, I am in the warehouse right now. So we have plans that are at Nan's, and then we are renting space actually at Exhale Massage Studio on Gleasondale Road in the basement. And we've set up this area here. So we have shelves, we have grow lights that are on timers. I'm in here every other day watering, and I have my 2 daughters who come in and either play in the dirt or attempt to help me water.
In the dirt.
Let me just say something about that warehouse. It is awesome. And as Jeff said, or I can't remember which one of you talked about how we actually got this idea. Well, I was in Florida until the end of February, and I was really panicking. I was like, these plants are going to die. We're never going to be able to keep them alive. It's too cold. You don't have enough light. And these girls had been working on this warehouse, which we actually accumulated at the beginning of January. And so I came in and I saw this thing and my mouth dropped. It's awesome. It's a tiny little space, but they built these shelves and it's so beautifully organized. And my son-in-law Craig made all these grow lights, and the plants do really great there, don't they? Yeah. So that's my favorite spot. Nan's is pretty nice too, but I love that warehouse.
So you mentioned that plants, well, hibernation is not the right word, but dormant, that's the right word. Is that true with all plants, and therefore you don't need to give them extra light in the wintertime?
Well, light is what makes them grow. But in the wintertime, when they go dormant, they don't need as much water. I would think that in the wintertime, normally they're going to have less light, even if they were outside, because the days are shorter. So if it's in a space that it's doing well for most of the year, you don't really have to move it to another space. It should survive, but it's just not going to grow as fast. It's more like just dormant, like a tree.
Yeah.
So we don't recommend fertilizing in the fall and the winter, and watering. You're going to cut back probably half of what you're usually doing. So.
Well, is there a book in the works here?
Maybe one day.
I don't know if you guys ever have a chance to go on our Instagram. Well, wait a minute. Where are those plant pages? I think they're going to be on our website. We've done so much research for the last 6 months. I mean, I know more about houseplants. I think I mentioned at the beginning, I know a lot about trees because that was what I was doing. But I know more about houseplants than I've ever known. And we've made a page for everything we sell. And I don't know, maybe there could be a book someday.
Good. Any other questions about your particular plants before we leave? Anybody?
Yes, Linda Campo.
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember one of you said that you had cats, and I'm wondering how I can manage to have a house plant with cats. I have had 2 places in my house. The mantle over the fireplace where they can't reach, but it's pretty dark in there. I've only been able to do orchids. And one shelf unit, the top 2 shelves for many months, I overwintered a mandevilla, which is now blooming. And I had a month or 2 ago, I bought a geranium with purple flowers. And now they've figured out how to get up there too. So those plants are outside. And I'm wondering how you manage the cat situation. What have you done to allow yourself to have plants that the cats don't decide to?
It's not easy because they will take little bites. I try to bring in plants. I mean, I have a lot of plants, but and a lot of them are not pet friendly, but the ones that are around my cats are pet friendly. So in the case that Walter may be able to get to them or bite to them, it's not going to cause them harm. So, you know, I have a lot of peperomias. The Pilia is a pet friendly option. I think
spider plant, Kara.
Spider plant is a pet friendly option. Hanging them from the ceiling so they can't get to that. You know, a spider plant, however, as they grow down, your cat is going to absolutely love those spider plants. So, you know,
even the ones that are safe, they've made them look terrible and break them and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
and I have vaulted ceilings, so I can't really get up there to hang out whatever. So I was.
Right. You know, I also use grow lights. My husband is pretty much able to do anything. So he's actually put in a couple grow lights for me so I can put them in a place where they don't get light, but the grow light will give them.
The other thing with cats is they don't like orange. So I have 2 cats, and I will say I'm probably a terrible cat parent, but like if the plant is mildly toxic, like it's not going to kill them, they're just going to throw up a little. So Dracaena, for example, I have Dracenas in my house, and sometimes my cats eat them and then they just throw up. And much like with my kids, I look at them and I say, well, that's what happens when you eat my plant. But I do think the orange, they don't like orange. So if you can spray your plants with like essence of orange, or put orange peel around and sort of spray your plant with orange, they don't like that. We've done that with Christmas tree lights. They also don't like peppermint, so that's something else you could put on your plants to try to stop them. I have found that my cats are less interested in plants that have a more robust leaf. So I got a rubber plant, and they haven't bothered with that because it's a broader leaf and it's much more rigid than some of the other leaves, and they just don't care about that one. They care much more about the ones that look like they're ones you can bat at, like
what about the ZZ? What about the ZZ?
That's pretty toxic. You don't want that one.
Oh, okay.
The ZZ plant, that one's very popular right now. It's awesome because it's almost impossible to kill. It will do well with no water. It will do well with too much water. It will do well with no light. Like, it could do well in any situation, but that one's highly toxic. So that one is not ideal for having a pet in the house that you're worried about.
Okay.
You know, but the fluorescent light bulbs is, if you wanted to have a low cost option of doing some kind of grow situation, a grow light, just using a fluorescent light bulb, or you can buy grow bulbs at Home Depot too, and putting it in a light fixture, that's going to provide light for your plants. So you could put it in a location where your cat's not going to get it, and then, you know, put a grow light there.
There's literally two places that I'm pretty sure they can't get to. One is a very tall jewelry chest that's, you know, in my bedroom, and the other one is the mantle. So they're very agile. They just turned 12 years old yesterday, but they're Siamese. They're active. They're curious. And
Oh, well, there you go.
Do
They're
we still
Siamese
have that
cats.
chlorophytum? Do we still have that chlorophytum?
You have no, yeah, they're Siamese. They're going to get wherever they want to go.
What were you saying, Kathy?
Well, we have this one plant that's actually a relative of the spider plant, but it doesn't produce those little offshoots. And it's a pretty cool plant, but it was in our shop for a long time. I was just asking if we still had that, because that would work for you.
And do you still have it?
Yes, we do. You've got it right now.
Okay, the last
I had to get rid of the last two plants. One day, just as you said, the cat ate the plant, threw up the next day. I put it outside, and then I had one left. Chewed that one. I put it outside.
See how that has the little orange, beautiful orange coloration in the center there? That's pet friendly.
Oh, very good.
Okay, we've got one more question from Craig. You want to unmute yourself, Craig, and ask that question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the initial slideshow, you were asking questions about propagation. Are you guys propagating your plants at this point, or are you just getting, at this point, are you getting your stock from suppliers?
Right now, we're getting our start from suppliers. I mean, it would be great to be able to build a greenhouse and start to do some of our own propagation. But at this point, that's more of a pipe dream.
We're having enough trouble. Poor Elizabeth, she's the one that's at the home front there, and she's having enough trouble as it is. Although I keep telling them, because spring is a good time for propagating, and I've been doing some propagating down here in Florida, but I'll be there in a couple weeks, so I'll be able to start seeing what we have to
Right
do.
now I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old. So between those two and all of the plants, I can't grow anymore.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Just by coincidence today at our church is the plant sale, which just started at 9 o'clock. So maybe if you're going to the plant sale, you can go down, head east on 117 and 62 and go into Nan's and see what the BOTANY has to offer. So
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. And bye to everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.